Hey, what's up everybody? Mike here, and we're going to be taking a look at AICP 9.0. Now this is running Android 5.1.1 and it is fully compatible with the Nexus 6. AICP is short for Android Ice Cold Project. Now you are going to notice that I do have a dark material type theme, and this is not included with the actual ROM. It's actually a theme that I am using, and if you are not aware, it is called Nicholas's Dark Material Theme. Now, one thing I do also want to mention is that I am not using his navigation bar or fonts. I actually mix and match. I use everything with Nicholas's Dark Material except for the nav bar and fonts. I actually use Flux navigation bar and fonts. This is a premium theme, so if you guys don't want to use this, just use the standard Nicholas Dark theme navigation bar and fonts and you'll be good to go. But that's just what I use. In case you are interested, that is what is on the screen right now. So to dive into AICP, there's a lot of stuff. This is ACM 12.1 based ROM, and it has a lot of great features. It is actually really stable, but they do have a nightly or daily, or at least a bi-daily update process. You're going to notice down here a OTA process. So once you open this up, you will be able to check for updates manually. You're going to see that I am up to date. I am basically running a build from the 25th, which was yesterday, which was Saturday. But if you swipe over, you can change this up. You also have an install box there that I'll go back over here in a minute. But you can change the update check frequency. You can do don't check, or you can go anywhere from half an hour all the way to a daily process. You can also check for Google Apps or GApp packages, and you can change which type of package you want based on full or mini packages and inverted packages. So a lot of great little features there that you can check out. You also have an install process where you can manually add a file, or you can just install it right now if you've already downloaded it, or you can just select and see what you want here. You can wipe data, backup, you can do a whole lot of different things here with the OTA process. So some great stuff there with the AICP OTA, found all the way at the bottom of AICP Extras. Now let's go ahead and dive in and just see what this includes. In your various stuff here, or various shit, you're going to get your proximity on wake. It's going to check the sensor during wake up. So that will maybe cause some issues with some certain things you use, maybe not. You'll have to come in here and play with it. You do have disable force close notifications, so if you get annoyed whenever something force closes and you get the dialog box and you have to click OK, you can disable that feature if you want to with your disable FC notifications. So that's awesome. You also have the ability to show weather on the status bar up here in your panel. It's going to be displayed below the settings icon and your user icon if you have that enabled. You also have lock screen weather you can enable, and when you enable this, you have your location and timestamp settings that you can toggle. You also have icons that you can change based on monochrome, colored, or V-clouds, and you can colorize these icons and get real specific. You have a reset feature up here, which will go to an Android, which will disable it, or you can go to AICP, which will basically enable everything. So that will be up to you whether or not you want to use lock screen weather or lock screen colors. There is colors in here as well. You can use this as well with Android basic white or the AICP blue. So go in here and adjust those values based on your preferences. Full customization there. Down below you're going to see more stuff or more shit, and you can adjust your boot animation. This is pretty cool, and this is featured in any ROMs that I've seen. This is what AICP's boot animation looks like. It's actually pretty sick. But if you want to change it up, you can hit Set Custom. You can go to your file chooser of choice and locate a boot animation. Now, I've downloaded the Marvel one from previously in the past, so it will basically create a preview and load that up. You'll see it here. And then if you want to use that, you can click Apply. And then the next time you start your device or reboot your device, it will show the Marvel one instead of the AICP if you apply. Now I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out because I actually like AICP. Now down here below that you are going to have your C-Lock settings, and you're basically going to get your clock and alarm, weather panel, and calendar events. It's basically going to be advanced features. So if you want to bold your hours, minutes, or what have you with the display there, you can change all that stuff up in there. So that's all going to be found in your various stuff in AICP Extra settings. Now you are going to have notification drawer, status bar, all of that ridiculous stuff that's always going to be about the same. But to go ahead and just show you real quickly what you have here, you have a ridiculous amount of tile options. Now if you want to go in here, you can pretty much select anything you want to. What I have set up is the basic stuff I need, which is my Wi-Fi, LTE that I can turn on or off, 3G, LTE, 4G, whatever. Location, flashlight, auto rotate, my mirror casting or Chrome casting. My screen on time, which I really like, you can change that on the fly, and you can go straight into expanded desktop if I want to. hide the status bar and navigation bar. So that's what I use. You can choose whatever you want. Now, this ROM does include Wi-Fi, detailed Wi-Fi. If you disable the 2-row there, or the highlighted selection, you will still get your advanced detail settings as well as GPS. And that is all going to be toggleable down here at the bottom. So you're going to see the enlarged first row. If you want to keep that, that's up to you. You will get your advanced features there. But if you don't want that, you can do 4 or 3 per row here. You can also take off that brightness slider if you don't adjust your brightness a lot or use auto brightness. You're going to notice up here, you do have 4 tiles per row. So if you don't want to use 4 tiles, you can still use the standard 3 and get really large icons if you have poor eyesight or what have you. Down here, you do have detailed view for Wi-Fi and advanced location quick settings. No Bluetooth stuff, that's okay. I don't keep that up here. If you do, you might want to keep the highlighted tiles. But there you go. You still get your advanced detailed settings, and that's great. That's something that a lot of ROMs don't currently have. They're kind of incorporating it, but it is featured here. You also have your quick pull down based on right, left, or disable. So everything there in the notification bar that you could possibly need, or drawer rather, in your quick toggle and tile settings. Status bar, you get some advanced features here. You have your clock and date. You can center this, put it on left or right. You can adjust the color if you want to. You can also disable it completely. Typical stuff, you also have clock seconds that you can show. So if you want to see the seconds tick, you have that option. But you can adjust the colors, everything in there. Battery settings, pretty much standard stuff here. You do have an additional dotted circle, though, that is included. However, you cannot customize that dotted circle that you will find in some other ROMs. Not a big deal, but you can put the percentage indicator within the icon, next to the icon. That will be up to you. I'm charging currently, so it's next to the icon. If I take out my plug, you'll see it's now going to be inside once I go below 100%. AICP logo, you can enable this. You can change the color if you want to show that off. You can do pretty much whatever you want to if you want to show that. You also have carrier label that you can enable if you want to show your carrier label. Don't know why you would, but if you do, it's there. I'm in airplane mode, so it says no service. Brightness control by sliding on the status bar up there at the top from left and right if you want that. Double tap to sleep and double tap to wake, fully functional, kernel dependent. You'll have to change your settings there maybe, but it is functional. You can show your notification count. You can enable activity arrows if you want to see activity in your Wi-Fi or in your LTE or carrier signal strength. That will be up to you. You can also set up a network traffic here if you want to see the incoming or outgoing data. You have meter, text, or both modes here. You also have where you can change let me go ahead and first enable it. But you can also show whether or not you want to display outgoing or incoming or both. And as I can show you there, you can have the metered, you can have text, or both. So you can get really, really customized here with that network traffic if you like that feature. You can also set up personal grading. So every time you turn on your device, it will basically display whatever you want it to, like blah, 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 blah. My name's Jackson. There you go. It will show that. You can have your timeout display as well. So great stuff with the status bar. Lots of features. Now, heads up notifications comes disabled by default. A lot of you like that, but if you like heads up notifications, you can turn this on. You can also change up the swipe behavior here, as well as the touch outside behavior. So super customization there, as well as timeout based on never, which is just going to basically show the heads up notification until you swipe it or disable it. Or you can go all the way from 2 seconds to 10 seconds, which a lot of ROMs don't have this many features, or at least options. Normally they give you about 5. This one gives you a lot more. So I like to keep mine about 4 or 5. You guys can choose whatever you want. Display and animations, you can basically change up any display animations or animation strings based on toast, system, list view, or what have you. You also have your LCD DPI density in this menu. Default is 560, as most of you know, but you can change it to anything you want or a custom value. So that's where you're going to find your LCD density down there in display and animations. You also have your recent panel settings. You can show a clear all recents panel, and you can put that pretty much anywhere you want to based on top or bottom. You also have a RAM indicator or a memory bar there. You can enable that. I actually really like that feature with the new CM 12.1 ROMs. So it's going to show you how much RAM you have free, and if you close something out, obviously it's going to free up some RAM, and you'll be able to see it up there at the top. And that is super great. Now you can disable the search bar up there if you want to as well. And if you guys are a fan of OmniSwitch, it's included. I don't use it. I find it to be just a ridiculous feature, but hey, it's here if you like it. So yeah, that's great. Gesture Anywhere and App Circle Bar are included, and these are pretty nice if you like these features. Gesture Anywhere is basically going to toggle a little thing here on the side. You can adjust that width or the trigger width. It's fully customizable. You can also have the option to add gestures and applications or actions in the bar here. So I already have calculator enabled. It's basically just a C. So if I trigger my gesture and hit C, it's going to launch calculator. And just real quickly to show you how I do that, I'm just going to hit delete here. So let me get rid of that. So if I had hit add gesture, select my application, hit calculator, I draw my gesture, which is a C, I hit done, and then we go back and now it's loaded. So if I hit this, trigger the actual gesture, hit C, it's going to launch calculator. And that's basically how that works, and you can change it up to do anything you want. You can also adjust this on left or the right edge. Just be aware if you are going to use the app circle bar, this is only available on the right side or the right edge of your device. So if you enable both on right, you're going to have some issues and you're going to have to change your trigger position. So you might want to keep the trigger for one up here at the top and one at the bottom if you're going to go that route for one-handed use, because this is a rather large phone if you're using a Nexus 6 or a tablet or anything like that with this particular ROM. So just be aware of that. But yeah, the app circle bar is basically going to trigger a little circle bar here or a wheel, and it's going to have all your applications inside there. You can choose what applications you want to display in there based on a little tick box. You just select what you want in here, and they will be displayed once you trigger that wheel or the app circle bar. That's pretty much what that is. It's a great little feature if you like it. I don't use it, but hey, if you do, it's there. Wake lock blocker is included, so if you're having issues with battery drain during idle or standby times when your device is off and you're noticing your battery's just draining for whatever reason, you can go check that out with Better Battery Stats or any application that is relatively related or equal to that. And then you can come in here and disable whatever service or whatever issue it is that is keeping your device awake. You can disable that in here. Just be a little bit careful if you're not familiar or you're not an advanced user. You can screw up a lot of things and your device can basically be unusable in some certain cases if you're in there tinkering and hitting the wrong things. So you might want to do some research before you go in there. You also have an ad blocker included, so you don't necessarily have to install Ad Aware or Ad Away unless you want to. So that is fully functional. Just make sure you toggle it on and then update your host files and you're good to go. Another thing that is really nice with ad blocker that is included and integrated is the whitelist feature. So if you use something like XDA and you get a pop-up box that is basically a private message or something like that, notification wise, you can come in here and add that XDA to the whitelist so you won't get blocks or ad blocks on that website. Great stuff. You also have a kernel auditor, I like to call it, and you come in here and adjust everything based on what kernel you're using. Now, there are kernel applications based on kernels, like Franco Kernel has a Franco Kernel app. It's a little bit expensive, $5, but if you want to use that, you have that option as well. But this is another great option. You can come in here and check your frequency table, which is basically going to give you a percentage value as well as a time interval of how long that CPU has been online in that frequency. So you can basically get a rough idea of what your CPU likes to be at based on the kernel you're using. If you don't like it to be in that certain specific frequency value, you can come in here and change that up in the CPU settings here. So you can go in here and change your frequencies. You can hit the maximum frequency, the minimum frequency. You can change your governor. Now I'm using Elemental X as my kernel right now, so everything's done through that in the Aroma installer when I flash it. And I'll probably make a video of that sometime here, but you can go and change everything up you want. You can set its CPU temperature limit, intervals, sync thresholds. This is all advanced stuff. If you don't know what you're doing, then you probably shouldn't be in here messing with this. But if you know what you're doing, then I probably don't need to explain any further. But this is a really great little application that is included and integrated where you can adjust all of your CPU frequencies, your voltages, and your GPU stuff. You also have a settings menu, and you can use a dark theme or a white theme based on this actual application. So that's all available to you at your fingertips with this particular ROM. So great stuff there. And that's all found in AICP extras. Now there is some other stuff, floating about. You have your buttons here. So if you are using the navbar, you have your buttons and layouts, so you can change that up in here. I like to include a menu in my navbar when I am using it, because when I'm using things like Google Maps, you have to reach all the way up to the top. And this is a large phone, large display. I'm using a Nexus 6, so I like that menu button down there at the bottom. It just makes it a little bit easier to access if I'm using one hand. That will be up to you. You guys can change that up any way you want. Now, if you are in landscape, you can use a left-handed mode. If you are more prone to using the left hand instead of your right hand, that's all available. That's great stuff. You can also double tap to sleep on the nav bar. So if you don't want to reach all the way up to the status bar to double tap to sleep and you're using the nav bar, you have that option. Super great. Standard stuff there with the show arrow keys. You have your nav bar dimensions and you can adjust this based on the portrait and landscape modes. I like to keep mine in the sweet spot of 40. 48 is the default, but it's rather large, as you can see there. So I like to keep mine about 40. It's a little bit smaller. Takes up less screen real estate, and then I keep the same on the landscape. Now it's going to be a little bit smaller on landscape. That's just the way it is, as it already changes and scales from a smaller width. So just be aware of that. Now I don't actually use the nav bar unless I'm doing reviews. I actually use swipe navigation. I love it. It disables nav bars. It disables the need of any kind of soft keys. It's a gesture-based application. I'll be going over that later in the future, and you guys can check it out. Swipe navigation, you can get it on Google Play. It's super awesome. You also have the option to change the tint. So if you want to come in here and change up the colors of your nav bar, you can do that, or the icons or buttons rather. You can do that. Now I actually shade mine a little bit. I don't blow them out fully on white because I am a little bit cautious of screen burn-in. So just be aware of that. You can set it to whatever you want, but I like to keep mine a little bit in the darker zone, more stealthy, to avoid any kind of screen burn-in. And I do tend to swap my display from landscape and portrait mode a lot when my nav bar is enabled to also, minimize the risk of screen burn-in. But anyway, we're just talking about some random stuff there. So you also have navigation rings you can enable with this particular ROM. So if you want to set nav ring targets, you have that option. I have calculator and YouTube set up as an example real quick. But you can change that. You can also disable Google if you want to, Google Now. So if you don't use it, you can change it to an action or an application. You just go in here and select whatever you want, and it will basically apply it to that circle, and you just hit the checkbox. You're good to go. So you just hold the home key down, and then you select what application you want based in those nav ring targets. So great stuff there that you can choose from. Now, if you long press the action here, long press the back action, it will go to your last app, and that's a great little feature that's baked in. You also have your power menu here, so if you long press the power button, you'll get whatever you set up customization here. It comes defaulted with pretty much everything enabled, and it's quite a lot of stuff. But you can go in here and tick off whatever you're not going to use. You can also set a screenshot delay if you're going to use that feature from 1 second all the way to 30, which is rather long, but that option is available. One thing that I really like is the sound panel with this particular ROM as well, and I'll get into that in a minute. But you also have a full silent mode without going into a priority mode in this particular ROM, and that's awesome. Now you do have the option to end calls with the power button if you want to use that. You can also wake the device with the volume rockers. Just be aware if you use that, you won't be able to seek music tracks most likely, as that will conflict. You can also reorient the volume rockers, in landscape mode. So that's awesome. And that's all found in your button settings. Now, if you're using different home screens like I am, or launchers, I actually used Google Now Launcher. It comes with the default CM12 launcher or CM12.1. You can go in here and adjust that if you want to. You can also delete which one you're not using. That will be up to you to set that. Display settings, you are going to have some advanced features as well. Live display, you can change your color temperatures. I like to use the day mode, and in the day mode, I keep it at 7000K, which is right in the middle of warm and cool. It actually makes the whites look a lot more white. Default Nexus 6 settings kind of look a little bit like a warm orange or red. I don't really, or maybe even pink. I don't really like it, so I like to adjust that and change it to 7000. It makes it look a lot better, and it makes those colors pop. You also have automatic outdoor mode. You can change that up. It's basically just going to blow up your display, put it up at max display brightness when you step outside. I've never really found this to work that great, but you can go in here and use it if you want to. Otherwise, it's not that hard to come in here and just adjust it manually. But you have that option. Now, if you are going to be toggling display modes a lot, you can also include this in your advanced quick display or quick setting toggles. There is a tile for that, so be aware of that if you toggle back and forth between color temperatures. You will get in sleep the additional 45 seconds, so you can enable that. That's a sweet spot. And you can also set this in your quick settings all the way to 30 minutes if you want to get pretty crazy. I normally leave it around 5 or 10 when I'm doing reviews, just so the display doesn't turn off. So if you're doing presentations or anything, or showing people pictures, you can do that rather quickly. Ambient display does have some advanced features here. You can enable this and you can do an overwrite value. So you can come in here and change your fade in, fade out, and visible duration settings. So you can get really, really technical here and adjust those. So if you're not a fan of LED notifications for whatever reason, or you want to use both, you can come in here and toggle ambient display and have some advanced features that you can choose from. Expanded desktop is included, and I actually really like expanded desktop. It's basically full screen mode if you want to enable certain applications like Bacon Reader or Chrome or settings, and you just want to disable the status bar or the nav bar or both. You can go in there and set that up. There's also a quick setting toggle, so you can go straight into full screen mode if you want to disable all that stuff during a presentation. Great stuff, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and leave it disabled for a minute here. Advanced settings down here at the bottom, you do have double tap to wake, and you can have sweep to wake and sweep to sleep. So if you like those features, they are integrated. Might be a little bit dependent on your kernel that you're using, but full customization is included. You also have wake up on charge here, so if you don't necessarily want your display to turn on when you're plugging your phone for charging, or you're docking it on a wireless charger, you can toggle that on or off. So great stuff there in display. Sound and notification is going to have your LED notification lights, so you can turn these on. You can also change the custom colors if you want to, all the way from RGB, red, green, and blue. You can use custom values, and you can set this up on missed voicemails and calls, and you can toggle specific applications based on those color values if you want to go that route. Will be a little bit dependent on what kernel you're using in terms of the battery light. I know that I am using Elemental X, and this feature works with that no problem. But if you're using Franco kernel or anything like that, you'll have to go into the application to change the battery light or LED. So just be aware of that. But you do have a launch music app feature in here as well. So if you plug in a headset, you'll automatically launch your music application that you have defaulted. You do have increasing ring volumes that you can set up. So if you like that feature, it's included. You also can link ringtone volumes and notification volumes. So if you don't want 4 panels coming up, you can minimize that with that specific feature there. Just simply, let me get back here, just simply link those, and then you'll have your basic setting there, panel, and then you can get into your advanced panel. It's also worth noting that you can go into different settings here with that toggle. So you'll get your audible, your vibrate silence, and then complete silence mode, which I really, really like. So you don't necessarily have to go into a priority mode to toggle complete silence now with the CM12.1 based ROMs. And that's great. Even some of the AOSP ROMs are now featuring that. And it's something that should just be in stock Android, but it's not for whatever reason. You also have volume steps here. So if you are a fan of changing up your volume steps based on what they are in reference to, ringer system, voice calls, notifications, you can come in here and change those up. What that is basically your volume steps. So you can change those up and go from there. You have a ridiculous amount of ringtones and notification tones, so not going to be minimized in there. Anything you want. Other sounds is going to have your list of sounds where if your dial tones, you want to disable that. Screen locking sounds, touch sounds, you can come in here and enable or disable those. You also have vibrate on touch, and you can adjust your volume adjustment sound here. So if you're a person that doesn't like when you are going up and down in volume with your volume rockers, and you get that annoying beep noise, you can turn that off right here with the volume adjust sound. Some ROMs don't feature that, some do, and that's great that it is included here. You can also change your charging sounds and vibrate there as well. You also have advanced options in your sound and notification, and in here you can basically disable that annoying shutter sound if you want to on your camera. You will get a little warning. Same thing with your safe headset volume, so you'll get warnings with those, but you can disable those. You also have your volume rocker music control, so you can adjust that based on your volume rockers and seeking music tracks by long pressing. So great stuff in here. You can go and get pretty creative and get really customized with the sound and notifications. Everything else is pretty standard. You do have system profiles, so if you enable this and based on your location, you can adjust your toggles and settings. get really, really specific. And you can also find that in your power menu if you enable that feature. So great stuff there. I leave it disabled. It's easier for me just to go in there and manually do it real quickly. Security is going to have a lot of additional features. All right, somebody needs a new belt on their car. Anyway, you do have the option to set up your standard swipe locks or PIN codes. Smart lock, you're going to have your additional features if you want to base it on your location. You will have to have GPS enabled to set that up or use it. Lock screen shortcuts are included in here, so you can adjust what you want in the middle lock screen shortcuts rather. So if I want to open up Bacon Reader or Facebook or anything like that, I can add these in real quickly, or Dropbox, for example. This will be based on your lock screen. I guess I didn't set this up. Bad example. Let's get out of there. So we'll just do something real quickly. We'll use calculator. And that will basically put a shortcut there on my lock screen. But anyway, there's also additional lock screen targets down here, the usual stuff. You have your phone that you can completely disable. So if you're accidentally targeting or triggering these actions or applications in your pocket, you can disable them. You can set them back to the defaults, which is phone and camera, or you can select a specific application or action to launch from those. So if I wanted to launch something like my Chrome for whatever reason, I can choose that, or I can go straight to my Gmail. You know, pretty much anything you want to is accessible through that lock screen target. So great stuff there. I do run encrypted. A lot of people complain about encryption with ROMs when they're flashing. One of the reasons I run encrypted is because ever since 5.1 Android was released, encryption is not an issue for me. It's not going to affect battery life at all. Performance is very minimal. It's almost not noticeable. I've done all of my benchmarks and I'm not convinced to run unencrypted. So that will be up to you, but the hassle's just not worth it. You also have a display music visualizer, so you can display a visualizer down there on your lock screen if you're listening to music when that is enabled. So that's really cool stuff. And you have a lot of different little things in here that you can mess around with, your typical settings and security. That pretty much sums it up. There's not too much else going on. Everything else is pretty much the standard. You have your Super SU right there that you can access rather quickly from your settings menu. I haven't installed my backup script or anything like that yet. But yeah, that pretty much covers it up. You do have developer options, and when you first flash this, it will not come with advanced reboot toggled on. So make sure you turn that on. Anyway, guys, that pretty much sums up AICP, the Android Ice Cold Project ROM based on CM12.1, running the latest version of Android 5.1.1. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoyed the ROM review. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video and more videos like this that will be coming out in the future. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.